I don't think he exists.
You think he's...
I've yet to see him. Bert, I've not ran into this guy, made visual contact, ran into him on an elevator, bumped into him on a
Well, the start of that clip from the Joe Show is that Doug Kyte said he sees him all the time.
He does?
Yeah, he said at the start of it, he goes, I see him all the time. He goes, he's always around.
I even asked Bob, Bob, have you seen him? Bob's like, no. I'm like, is he upstairs, downstairs? I don't even know if he's upstairs or downstairs.
Well, I know he's been involved with the quarterback.
Right.
So,
with the young quarterback, the rookie quarterback.
I can't believe he's 7 years younger.
7 years younger. He's 47 years old. And as you heard Joe Murray say, he was an offensive coordinator that had offenses improve under his coaching to the point where he got hired as a head coach. Now, I don't think he made for a good head coach.
Right.
I don't think that was a great experience for him, but that does not mean he can't be a coordinator. Or couldn't be a better coordinator or an upgrade over the coordinator that they chose in Alex Van Pelt.
Well, I mean, look at what's going on in Washington with Cliff. There are tons of examples of this, of guys coming back and being coordinators again after they're fired as head coaches that do a great job. Like it's Brian Flores in Minnesota.
Peter Principle all the way, my friend.
So
that's what it is.
But McAdoo's history is good. Like they brought him in New York to revive Eli and take Eli and turn him back around, and he did well enough for the New York Giants, not some two-bit organization, to promote him to head coach. Now, that didn't work out, obviously, but then he was there for Mike McCarthy's breakthrough in Dallas in 2021 when they got to 12 wins, and then the next year goes to Carolina, and that wasn't great at the beginning, but they wound up getting a really high level of play out of Sam Darnold at the end of the year, which I think most people would tell you was kind of where Sam, if you want to take where he is now and look at it over the last few years, that time in Carolina was probably the turning point for him. Now, they wind up getting fired, but that wasn't his fault because the head coach was already fired there by the time he was working with Sam. Matt Rule was fired, I think, after 5 games that year. So they were all gone sort of regardless. But that Carolina team played well enough down the stretch for Steve Wilkes to be considered to become the head coach there. And McAdoo was part of that as well.
So I got to say, I had Alex Van Pelt fired after the season months ago now. I don't know if he's going to make it to the end of the season. I think Ben McAdoo's a real threat to his job. If you're going to consider firing the OC in the offseason, you can get him out of here before that point. Especially when you've got someone else who's done it before and has called plays in this league plenty of times, more so than Alex Van Pelt has ever done. You can plug him right in. They've got a plug-and-play answer on their coaching roster.
It's almost like it's by design.
It's almost like they thought this might happen.
Break glass in case of emergency. We like Alex. We're not sure. What if it just falls apart? We got to have somebody, guys, we could go to.
Mm-hmm. There is nothing that Alex Van Pelt can hang his hat on right now through the first 5 games this season. He doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, we handed off a bunch and we ran well. That's not innovative. That doesn't take a lot of thought. Mm-hmm. You ran well. You ran well in that game. If we're playing the game in 1946, yeah, I think you did a great job. You guys are awesome. And so I don't think he has anything to write home about through 5 games. That now needs to change. He's been given a new tool. And I don't know how long it'll be before maybe the patience with him is gone, has run out. And it's an arranged marriage. I keep going back to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see what happens. I've brought up before the examples of first-time head coaches making changes with their offensive coordinators. It happened in Detroit with Dan Campbell going to Ben Johnson, who was the tight ends coach there. It happened in Buffalo, where Sean McDermott, his first year, had Rick Dennison, who was like one of the original Kubiak-Shanahan guys. Fired Rick Dennison after a year, went to Brian Daboll. So it's happened. There are examples of it. I wouldn't write the book on this. We've seen what Alex Van Pelt looks like with Jacoby Brissett as his quarterback. Let's see what this looks like now with Drake Maye. That's going to write the story, because at the end of the year, when we get to week 17, week 18, this is either going to be a decision that's made on we want to build on the momentum that Drake has made, or Drake's not getting quite enough. That's what this decision is going to have nothing to do.
I don't understand how you can't hold the Jacoby Brissett games against Alex Van Pelt. That's his
you
guy.
can. No, you can.
Well, it sounds like you're saying, you can't.
No, you can't.
That's not what he's going to be graded on.
You can, but ultimately this decision is going to be made on how Drake looks. And if Drake does not look good over the next few weeks, then you may feel like you have to make a change. If you don't make a change over the course of the year, then your decision making on your offensive coaching is going to ride on whether or not, again, you want to ride the momentum that Drake's got going, in which case you keep everybody, or you feel like things aren't where they need to be, in that case you make a change. But everything from here on out is based on how Drake plays.
Well, I would say AVP to this point, 0-for-1 with wanting Jacoby Brissett as his quarterback. I think that it is going to impact the decision-making process on him. It has to weigh. It has to be part of it.
See, that to me is an interesting discussion. Who would you rather have had than Jacoby Brissett that was attainable?
Well, it depends on what you count as attainable. If the team wanted to spend some money.
Andy Dalton?
Let's not start that argument again.
Well, I'm just saying, if they wanted to spend more money.
Andy
Dalton? Andy Dalton, Gardner Minshew.
Nick Foles?
Nick Foles, those are all good answers. And I think fair answers. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is not. Was not attainable.
Why not?
Kirk Cousins was never coming here
because they're not hitting that jackpot.
There's just no way he was coming here.
Well, they certainly didn't try. They were more concerned with making sure they had Jacoby Brissett locked up 2 days before free agency even opened. What they did. He was their first priority. They weren't exactly trying for anybody else.
The Kirk Cousins thing was underway at the combine, so they had a pretty good idea of where they were at on that. Like Kirk Cousins. At his stage of his career, Kirk Cousins was why the hell would Kirk Cousins come here? That makes no sense. Why would he come here?
I don't think he ultimately would have chosen here, but I think it speaks to you didn't even make an effort. They didn't make an effort. They didn't make an effort on Baker Mayfield. They just assume no one's coming here.
But he was never coming here. Kirk Cousins, there was zero chance that Kirk Cousins was coming here.
Call me crazy. I just don't want my team to stop trying.
Yeah.
And on this one, they didn't even try for something else. They were in love with the idea with Jacoby Brissett as their bridge guy, and he's a career backup.
So this is where you have so what they reached for was the floor, not the ceiling here. I think that's where you can make the
really my
argument.
complaint.
That's where you can make the argument. Is like they reached for, and I'm not like. They wanted the higher floor rather than the high ceiling. If you go and try to get Sam Darnold, that's going for the high ceiling, right? That's like that. This could completely fall apart. But Justin Fields, same thing. Like this could completely fall apart and look awful, but the ceiling's really high. With Jacoby Brissett, you were basically betting on the floor, and even that didn't work out. So, like that was the logic behind it. Was the guy knows the offense? He's going to be able. Like, we don't need to feed him a million reps, so we're going to be able to get our young quarterback in there because Jacoby already knows the offense, which is where that 30% number came from. There was logic behind it. It just turns out he couldn't come close to playing at the level he played at 2 years ago in Cleveland. And again, I think you can project that like onto Alex and onto other people here where it's like, did he expect that he was going to play at that level without Nick Chubb, without Amari Cooper, without Jedrick Wills, without Jack Conklin? Without David Njoku, the situation here isn't close to what Cleveland had a couple of years ago. So, like, that's on them, too, for not being able to divorce Jacoby's play from the situation he was in 2 years ago.
Drake Maye being named quarterback was certainly interesting. Gets nearly simultaneously reported by Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport.
How does this get screwed up, Bert?
Tuesday afternoon when the players are not in the building. Although we know a lot of players were in the building that day.
There's no team meeting.
Even though it's the off day, it's not a formal day. It's the team's off day. You got guys coming in to work out or to get some treatments, things like that. They certainly hadn't met with the team, and Gerard Mayo said as much that it was announced to the team on Wednesday.
Yep.
And adding in that, these guys have social media. I mean, that in and of itself is embarrassing to say that, to indicate in any way, shape, or form that that's an acceptable way of notifying your team, even in 2024. So how did they botch this rollout this badly? And is it safe to assume that a leak like that to those big-time national reporters came from someone above Gerard Mayer or Elliot Wolf? Did it come from the very top of the organization?
It can happen a number of ways, and I'm not going to source guess, but like I do think
I will. I'll never stop.
I do think that like these things sometimes can happen as a result of word getting around. Now the quarterbacks knew, so that means their agents probably knew. it also means some of their teammates probably knew. So maybe their teammates' agents knew. And what can happen in a lot of cases like this, and I'm just kind of giving you guys some insight into it, is that this was something that everybody was on to begin with because Gerard Mayo's tone had changed on Monday. I reported what I did on Sunday, so I had an idea, like something could happen. Where things like this can happen oftentimes and where it seems like, oh, well, that must have been leaked because two guys are reporting it at the same time. And I'm not saying specifically in this situation it's the way it happened, but I've been in those situations before. There was a trade a few weeks ago that I had that like I was asked to do this on, where you go to the team and you say, okay, like I heard this, and they don't want to lie to you, and they'll be like, okay, well, can you please hold off until X time? And they might say, well, somebody else has it too, so we're okay with you reporting it, but can you please just tap the brakes on that and report it 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is later. My guess is it's something like that, where, if it's not just and some of these things are packaged. You guys are right to think that. Some of these things are leaked. There are deals that are made on information. All of that stuff exists. 100%. I'm not denying it does, but there are other ways that it can get out too. And I think in a situation like this, a lot of times the NFL turns into a big game of middle school or big game of middle school cafeteria telephone. You know what I mean? Like where it's just one person tells another person, and then the fifth person to know winds up telling a reporter. And then the reporter goes back to the initial source of the information and gets asked to stand down for a little bit, and then it looks like it got leaked because a couple people go with it at the same time.
Yeah, and everyone seems to think that Schefter and Rappaport, working for two of the league's biggest partners, one of them a league-owned entity, get fed information because owners can treat information as currency. They can trade it for things like Adam Schefter today. This has been brought up by a lot of people at 7:15 this morning. A long tweet with multiple photographs attached from Adam Schefter promoting something that's worth promoting, and it's the Time Out Against Hate campaign, a campaign inspired and led by Patriots owner Robert Kraft. It's a PR piece for Robert Kraft and something that he feels passionately about. If Robert Kraft could only get that kind of backing from Bill Belichick when he was the team's head coach, he would have been thrilled. He's got it from Schefter. He's got that. He gives him basically a press release on his Twitter feed, and it's like, this is, you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Yep. And that stuff exists 100%. I'm not denying it exists. You guys know it as well as I do. So my only point is it could happen a number of different ways. And I do agree that the team deserves to know before I always think and it's our job to get them get information they don't want us to have. Right now, in some cases it's beating a press release, which isn't really our job. But in other cases, it's like what's really happening inside a building and that they don't want you to know. So there are different elements to the job. But something like this where it's going to get out inevitably, I think you could have found a way to tell your players in a different way. It's a major decision.
They botched it.
It's a major thing that's going to affect everybody.
I know for a fact he wanted to tell the team on Wednesday. I know for a fact he wanted to tell the team.
And that's the thing is he
did this in August.
Yeah,
remember?
Right, because Gerard was a player, so
that's why he said that. He said it is my duty. The number one duty as the head coach to inform those guys first before anybody.
Right,
and he went there, and he had a thing on Jacoby to start the year. And remember, he made a decision, but the team wasn't in yet.
Yeah,
and he had to come back in. Beat writers were pissed. They had to drive in for a story that was broken.
And by the way,
10 minutes prior,
this is different.
A national guy got
it. And I agree. This is different than leaking than letting a signing go or letting a trade go, because this is legitimately a decision.
This affects your team.
It's going to affect everybody.
Yeah,
right. It's going to affect everybody.
So I think.
I'm just saying it's very suspicious when the tweet from Rap Sheets at 3:36 and the one from Schefter's at 3:37, and both have the graphics already built.
Right.
Who told them 3:36 was go time?
Right.
Who told them that? But that seems like someone sent the text to both of them at the same exact time. Okay, you're allowed to do your thing now. You've got it. Go. And it was like, who looked at their phone first? And within 60 seconds of each other, those two things hit Twitter. Sorry, X.
Because it was embargoed. Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, I think in that case, you can definitely, make your assumptions. for sure.
Yeah, I think it came from the top, and I think that
I'm not.
the top is on board with this guy being the starter now.
I would say, like in a case like this, it can get to them in different ways, and if it gets to them in a different way, and then the team has to make a deal with the reporter, that exists too, where it wasn't necessarily leaked. The reporter found out. I've been that reporter before plenty of times, and then the team says, "Hey, could you hold off for a little bit?"
If you listen,
that's what this could be.
Hey, if you like that clip, check out more videos from Zolak and Bertrand right here. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. And for all the latest from the Sports Hub, download the app at 985thesportshub.com.